health issues.
Hello, this is the Hardcore. You are interested in the right place. Have a
The biggest idiots in the galaxy.
Yeah, well, you're a...
Hey, Kip, we're downrange.
Kentucky Fried Idiot.
Mariners.
Back together.
On a mission from God.
You hear me talk like an idiot? Don't let that fool you. Hear me?
Spend the night assembling interest.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and Idiocy, the podcast about mostly just the stuff we like. And with the news this past being the New England Patriots, after we figured it's only appropriate to call Bradygeddon Part 2. As always, broadcasting from where outside Joliet, Illinois, while remaining socially distant. Sags, it's time to get nasty. They call Tim.
Hello, brother.
How are you doing this fine week, sir?
Oh, week 2 of seclusion is my basement. Oh, life is
6 hours ago.
It's all good.
All right, so be good. We have company guest to give us the non-Patreon. He is the Barry Sax-based band Rustic Overtone's own solo record in 2000, to which I will attest to. It happens to be the only Tampa Bay Buck. My pleasure to welcome Jason. How are you doing, fine sir?
I'm
Welcome.
Awesome.
doing, just hunkering down in my below the Saskatchewan.
And him is getting a 6-time back. He's been drinking since, but he's been the finest champagne that basically Fireball. Rough. We dive. Yeah, gosh, it used to. What was it? Was the champagne of Maine
By Fireball, and why?
I'd get either of them. It's just like stuff that's happening here. Throw this out here before we get to. Thank you all for listening. Spotify, iTunes, and Facebook, Instagram, range Idiocy at all. Let's get to what is probably and the peak. Always a little sad because it's 5 minutes immediately afterwards.
To alcohol and solution to problem.
So let's Jason. What do you evening?
Well, Tullamore Dew, the Irish way. I think Fireball will be next. I do have Fireball. A little jigger of George Dickel to itching to try. He came out with its affection, but George did Tennessee whiskey Daniels. But we really need because it's of the two whiskeys.
Well, I've never tried that, and I've never gotten my. I can add that to. And Mr. Tim, what do you got?
Sampling this evening, 3 Floyds, to be confused with Alpha Kong. But when I went to pop it on the engine, blew up everywhere, so I've been kind of as Jason has been talking. So
you almost made me spit.
You know, if your goal is to basically spew the, there we go.
Jeez.
But fine pale ale,
whatever's left,
explode when I popped it open.
It's flat as hell now. Oh well, here I am a favorite whiskey. This is Bullet Frontier whiskey, and it's pound for pound that I have love and recommended if you have the means. That all being said, because we spoke a few. Where would Brady go if he was going? Tim and I had said, well, there's a reason this show's. We don't know squat. He was out the door as soon as just a dust cloud and it ping.
The notion that leave the way with that pick six and just it seemed motivation for him to come back because legacy way, but apparently off base on the thinking. So
yeah, contended for probably N'Keal Harry second. Yeah, he was
close. For us, that's exactly.
They hurled.
I'd say that's a safe bet. Here's kind of the deal. Not know this. With the Buccaneers, 2 years, $50 million. 20 because it doesn't matter anyway. Then there's an additional $9 million. Plus, apparently there is a guarantee the team not to use the franchise season. So he might want to actually continue 2 years with the Bucs, which is and honestly, because I can't imagine that this guy does. And so let's talk because they're the ones who are actually where I think New England at this point. Good thing that everybody is staying inside. They're my Tobin Bridge, I think, of time. That's just my. So let's bring and really. Do you think that on the team now makes her for the next 2?
I think they'll be competitive. Very tough to call a champion. I think they got a good shot at it. I also want to consider Bruce Arians. It would probably fit very than what Leslie. So and you have you also Brian Mitchell. All these news that the Buccaneers are doing shot at just being a more competitive. And to be honest, right now. It's those new signings. The Buccaneers quarterback. I mean, the world of Jameis Winston, but he's thrown as many picks as he has touchdowns this past.
Hang on a second. You say Winston. I would say otherwise. Like actually offering to help him pack.
I think
oh, okay. I'm accusing you of anything because I've said the existence.
Wait, Todd, did
Of course
I know
he did.
for one.
See, I know your Facebook page said I bag on Jameis all the time. He's irresponsible. If you look at his numbers, I mean, he's go 4,000 young games that have come, and I think he'll end up very iffy whether he'll be. But he was the one variable that turning the corner. You know, I may bag on him, but for the most part, he's the one variable. And now that he has a quarterback, now that play caller. I mean, you know, that's the one I don't think Brady gets enough for. I mean, he's a game caller. He's setting the pace every game.
Just because I'm not as like one of the things that I've how it's in now for Brady and with I'm not as familiar with Miller. So are they three of them does improvement in the wide receiver core? Is it hard to tell whether a lack of performance or they have this are they now going to see in production now?
You know, it's very tough to see, but the receiving core is very skew. I mean, the one very it'll be interesting to see. I may look at stuff like this, but I'll season.
Yeah, because struggled with last year. I mean, I know. Sorry, they being the Patriots. You know, they were one run the table sort of situation, and then he started to hit in a very different direction, but was kind of limited in the. I mean, I don't know what was going on, but there's definitely no word I'm looking for. They weren't locked in terms of how he was with Amendola and Edelman. And Edelman, they were becoming a one-trick pony, and easy to know what was going to happen under pressure. He was just going to dump it to Edelman. So I think the thing move like this is are we going to see kind of how he is playing where he has some strong, unlike what he had where they were, not in the 6th Super Bowl 2 years, but it wasn't one of those dominant. There was clearly a hole and filled. And now the Bucs, it seems like with this wide familiar with the tight end, they'll all just benefit now that they has a pretty good.
You're talking about Anthony Oak. So I was more familiar with what I'm looking right here. He said so. Yeah, they've resigned him. So then what happens?
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, obviously, if it's a championship team, best case scenario. I mean, the next 2 years they will are in the playoffs, so they'll
500 record or over. I think it's probably Tampa always.
Yeah.
Fighting shot to at least end. What's their schedule? Let's see, the opponents.
They got to play the Saints twice.
They're playing Kansas City too. They and the Falcons. The Raiders too looks very favorable on the road. They play the Raiders. They play the Joes. So I'd see. I think is in sight.
And how is Eric not getting deep technical on it? Would you say similar to Belichick, or is apart from the way Belichick would run?
I think he runs his offense different. It's a different mindset. It's different behind that.
Okay. Didn't Arians originally come?
He played Pittsburgh and coach for the Colts.
Was he a head coach when Warner was around, Asp or something?
Yeah.
He
And then
did?
I thought was for a while or no? Am I missing?
Everybody has.
He was the head of Tampa.
Oh, okay.
And before that, he varied. It's he was a graduate assistant for Virginia, running back on quite a bit. He's mid to late 60s.
That's right, Cardinals. Yeah.
With after the Cardinals, wasn't it before he came to Tampa? He's had success even with his with the Cardinals. Got pushed out again. I'm going off. He always managed to seem to work. I don't know. There was always you're dealing with Kurt Warner at the Tom Brady heading in that. He always seemed like a pretty decent. From a distance, but I think he could see some success. I have is what's with Brady being in.
How old is Brady?
43.
How much more? I mean, he'll stay in the NFL. Is this a year where abilities start to wane a little bit? It's tough to see. His case scenario is that as much and fine season perhaps.
And I think that's what the past season was. Especially toward happened in the playoffs, was it due to the lack of weapons? I shouldn't say lack of weapons. We all-star outside of Edelman, but were we starting to see him, for the first? I'm not those fans that immediately goes he's not performing well sort of thing. That's not the way he's still a solid. He's going to do well this season. Element to age that he's not with my team anymore. Like you said, is there going to be seeing kind of the physical breakdown? Not. He's now. Kind of the health to do, and I think part of it today about what led to the kind of some of the track where Belichick his trainer was starting to work with a bunch and want it, has more freedom and that sort of a bit able to just kind of play the way. Not saying it was Belichick, but just up in this season with the Patriots, you're precisely where it kind of.
Just a second to go about Bruce Arians be with I'm looking at a phrase where you can't live scared. To hit Bruce more wide open, like they will. So that might fit. And you think old saxophone teacher is and still outplays me. Still, if you get at any, you do it. But there's a point where you got a man's got to know. But if he's still competitive, able to play at a high level, any reason why he shouldn't be.
I forgot to put this on the out. Forgot to really. How is Tampa Bay's line more than the lack of weapons? He doesn't have receivers that he used to. He didn't have. I think the fact is that he was just getting his clock cleaned last year. Really invest a lot in the offensive. Was as important than wide receivers. So and how a 43-year-old quarterback rest of times is not exactly full.
That's the see. I mean, for why their offensive line still had you got JT, Tanner Hudson, a couple of those people. New England says they don't broadcast, so I have to keep, and that's just kind of the way it is. And I think the cast a Buckland was when they played New England. Yeah, I wish I kind of I have seen it. It's just light footage, not. So I'm gonna look.
I feel a little bit the same way because I didn't really even watch last year.
Right.
And it does take a bit of to get a feel for how the offensive people really talk about, unless their things are really hitting the almost like if you band or a drummer in a band or something's wrong.
Right.
Where it's like it's almost better if you don't know, especially if you're one of them.
If you have a tremendous bass, then everyone knows the member of the band.
And I say that as a bass player who just hopes that nobody's. I know that he'll be saying something that's. Hey, what was that? It was me. I was the one.
Was that?
Yeah, that was me realizing I don't gene in my DNA. Yeah, no, it's not good. So now I guess do you, Jason? Do you feel? I don't know how really Tom Brady is going to mean for the, or if it's even is there enough of a sense of his that people are like, oh wow, this legit. Hey, it's nice. We might.
No, I think it's also the Glaciers who are they're really awful, horrible people. Malcolm Glacier, a business mogul, he was a cutthroat, just not a very nice guy, and over the team. And they also own Manchester United. They're horrible, but the thing is that they have a lot that they would give Brady pretty much, and I think they're definitely looking at their bottom line, and for Tom Brady as well, has another couple years. They pretty much offer the bear, to be honest. So I think it benefits them in both ways. You're looking at, they're thinking at the same time, the Bucks, whereas Monday they weren't talking about Tampa Bay, so they're figuring that the Bucks were probably they would resign Jameis to be 7-9 or 8-8.
Selling jerseys goes along towards helping the owners smile.
Jersey.
I wish they would just the new jerseys, man. It's like what this? Were they colorblind?
Yeah, the team is going to redesign their. They're going to introduce smart. They'll go back to the ones that when they won the Super Bowl. I had the best uniform in the NFL.
Wasn't that like Pewter Power slogans?
Yeah, Pewter was color that was introduced into the end like a number of years. So
that was those were sharp.
But I also think it will make a lot of conversation for to have. I think that's the bottom line about it. People in New England, Tampa, but also casual. Let's see what happens.
You can't really put a price on that city.
No, it's like you're just saying, Jason. It seems like getting what he wanted from a clear bump in jerseys and that sort of thing. There's also the aspect of first time. Todd and I have talked about for Brady again, like a seventh time. Joke that it was kind of the whole 18-0 is the last for them to achieve. Interesting in the Instagram he did that he probably feels, and that's for team because if he's challenged now, all kind of start to way of thinking his work ethic can be quite transformative there. If the player's a valuable kind of player that wants to get and rise to the occasion, interesting wild card to throw in there because I'll rise up and Patriots have in the past.
About to play football at that level as he is, and to be that's even at 42 offering still something to prove.
I mean, when we did the first one of these, like toward the end, your kind of conclusions but not conclusions was where he could go given the Super Bowl again. Not a place I would have, but
though, if I remember right,
it is. It is kind of an interest now, and that could make him seen how he thrives.
Well, yeah, totally making this up as I go along, but that's pretty much what it's this factor because I was reading an article when he was starting Wing. One of the things that he wanted to do is he had a new band and kind of start it. Totally wrong. I'll have to try and find it to me, but it said I can understand. Like he's like do something here, or just that idea of like want and I can still somewhere. Yeah. I can see that challenge. I can see a challenge.
Yeah.
So let's swap over here. Help us out with this one because as living amongst New England fans,
yeah,
what that's been like, which
no, that's
had to deal with New England with them as well.
Background: I'm from Maine, 7 or 8 years old, in Tampa, Clearwater, transferred. So, didn't grow up as a Patriot. A good fringe benefit of he got free season tickets.
Nice.
This was about 7, and we got to see Leroy Selman. I think it wasn't Steve Young. Doug Williams. Leroy Selman, and names are escaping me right.
Seen Vinny.
No, we moved out of Tampa like soon. Bucks fandom, pretty much all the. But as a kid, staying and seeing that football game was later. I got to G-Band in Florida. I got to march it to a lot of fun. Yeah, I even got the chance to see a Monday night on live. It was Tampa season that they had within like a field goal of. They were in they were breaking for. But people look at in this male straight fandom and hyped about Brady. I mean, even you had. But people kind of look at me they probably look at me as an oddity, and for my bucket.
Don't say that, right?
Well, no, okay. But they're like, we don't understand that they lose all the time. What city are they from? So, I see game. They just never brought on television. They always broadcast game of the week rather than the covers at Tampa Raymond James Stadium now. So, of course, the one lone relief where you had John Gruden, greatest bucket.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even Allstott?
John Lynch, Roy Selman, who was the very I think Bucks, Brad Johnson, Steve Young at one.
Yeah, was it in the Blizzard game?
Yeah, in the sea, and you think that darker uniforms for that. It was. I remember that was.
Yeah, and then there was when Vinny Testaverde was. Well, he's colorblind. That's why he on throwing interceptions like one. Contrast is broken in. I don't know that that's actually.
Vinny threw a lot of interceptions.
Yeah, and if I remember right, I think Bomber when he was
in anything. And that all these quarterbacks that went system, Doug Williams, over all that's when they had the renown. And I mean, nobody his time in Tampa. They remember him nobody remembers on his Super Bowl ring with the red.
And had one of the great ever.
Yes.
Up until decade. I mean, really, performances ever.
As one of the greatest performances.
It was. I think he had 4 touchdowns passing. I mean, it was
Dolphins. I think brothers team. It was the rivalry that divided. Yeah, I mean, Dan Marino fan. I have the Dolphins still. He picked the Dolphins. I picked Tampa.
Well, because that's the way I like this.
He has cultivated time, and the one thing, I mean, he had so much to say, for scoring on them.
One of those teams that, for whatever reason, hard time.
Right.
You could always just count on, especially when it was like the win. Oh, to watch those games, really. Oh my God. Talking about the Patriots here, for the first time in 18 years, the Patriots are ahead than Tom Brady at the start.
Right.
And actually, this is really the Patriots quarterback overhaul years. Basically, I mean, Drew Bledsoe and 93 draft.
Wow.
I mean, I don't really count Bledsoe to Brady, even though it was the books, which I have, specifically Michael Hawley's book. They kind of liked, even though he took up a roster spot, they would keep him. But I don't take that as we have to do something in very public. Early 90s when you had, which is insane, how quickly quarterbacks turn over. So right now, as we're 22nd, the hurts to even say it. This is the Patriots depth chart.
Brace it.
And I can't chart. This is the Patriot rum, shall we say? Jarrett Stidham and Jared Double R.
Thank you.
And hold the condition that he would be able to compare. It's not even like he's our stopgap, all out competition. Whoever. Anything like this since back when we.
Oh God.
Scott,
you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
Ladies and gentlemen, dark days for the
quarterback by committee. Wonderful.
It's gonna be rough. But anyway, anybody, please tell me what the plan. The cards in the air and go.
Well, and should we also talk about that are out there that the Patriots could
actually look this up? And this. Let me just tell you, folks.
Jameis Winston's one.
Jameis Winston. He's the top option you have because after that you have
Yep.
Underneath that, Josh McCown, Trevor Siemian, Mike Glennon. Did he get signed?
I don't.
Blaine Gabbert.
Yep.
Hasn't Matt Moore been around? Or is there 2 different ones? Super Matt Moore.
Possibly.
We have Joe Webb, Blake Bortles.
Oh God.
He's probably working a 7-Eleven. So David Fales,
Mark Sanders.
I think he actually.
Seriously?
He might. Kyle Slaughter. That one just got made up. They tossed in Allen, Matt Sims.
What about Cam Newton?
He wasn't on the list. Or wait a minute, is he on the next? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Cam Newton's. But if Joe Flacco, Winston, and
jeez,
Pickens ain't exactly a.
Yeah.
So Tim, Salute. Ways.
It's
So,
going to be interesting.
Basically, the plan is another piece to keep in mind here is the Patriots $3 million in dead. So obviously, Baltimore did, and actually, I think they did it again a couple of years ago season and just ripped the Band-Aid off. Money this year. Fresh. Only thing I can think of because they're making money and they've signed some of the different guys go and
so it's looking like it's.
Imagining, I don't think anyone uses ticket sales tend to plummet. Is it a bridge year? Is it a bridge year?
Sure, why not?
That's all I can think of. I mean, you're going to be competitive with any of.
I mean, I don't have a lot of Stidham.
The fact you didn't even know his
Jeff Jarrett.
Stedman is. Oh wait, that's Oprah's guy. Never mind.
A little bit of experience with Hoyer. See there. It's not. The thing is, I'm looking at the depth chart, and I don't know that they've done a department either.
Oh,
you have Mohamed Sunil Harry and tight end. It's like, gosh, Kosi. That's what I'm calling him.
Some history here with Tim and.
I'm a little. Reality we have to kind of accept. It's. I mean, at least at Rochelle and James White still. And
oh, goody.
What that immediately the 2020 seemed like it's above 9 and 7 would be generous. Okay.
Yeah. You tell me, you as a Jameis Winston, how and him would it be in watch Brady and all the what is that German word paying of others?
Taking Jameis Winston.
It's fans just watching interception.
I may bag on him quite also because of his horrible. It was I don't nest he plunged in the back of the field. That was tough though. I do want to see him succeed. The Patriots signing him makes
to cut down on him giving a win that's fixable, or is that bad at it?
Of his take away his numbers speak volumes.
Yeah, totally.
If you take a look at his number, I think the thing was interceptions. What he would do under Bill temper that. Would he ball more and the defense a little bit more? So it makes sense. I think Cam Newton Bortles will make sense. I really like him. I think he played with the Rams. It looks like
he backed up Goff this past year, didn't he? Okay. I just something on. I see this has talked me into thinking that Jameis Winston. I'm all in on that because money. And you know what? I could even see. I would honestly and see what he Bortles. I was glad when they talk about Andy Dalton and stuff like that. No, I mean for 2 years and he's healthy again. With Winston, you can hope that there's something of a period of time. Bortles or Dalton, like. I would
appreciate this. I'm looking about the possibilities. Blake have quotes of what Belichick said about, and there's an analysis piece that particularly says, said, but it says ability over the years, but never has much. That might just be telling. Maybe move him to tight end, which would be like all he drafts is tight end.
Why not? Again, you want to do.
Gosh,
just don't the quarterback.
What do you think about Newton?
I mean, if he's healthy, but the thing is, I just seen a running together once they start falling apart. Once you get a couple injuries, throwing money into it, it's almost like it looks beautiful, it sounds road, and then the repairs start.
Yeah. But this system
keep guys from getting hurt.
They got to make sure the O line.
Well, the play. Granted, he's a excellent passer. He's all very well as a passer. I feel. Man, it kind of relies on start moving around your rate, but. Yeah,
that's the one that's most is Cam Newton because I think a mobile quarterback where he already checked down sort of play. He's very much, and a lot of the passing game came from Brady. Hate that possibly for me. It's kind of interesting to have a behind center factor into some of this likes to run and kind of the way. But that is me, so I don't know that out or not. So
the ones I would be because Jason talked me into him. I'll go win Newton. And then I want to see the kid. Let's see what he has. Out the way, right? The one that I drafted in 29. I'm gonna guess
he is 23.
Yeah. He's come out of Stidham. It was Auburn. Okay.
Yep.
I know.
Nobody did.
Putting my friend.
And 14 yards passing 19 season. Yep. That's his. I mean, I would take those two guys, and the first two I'm kind of even like okay. I mean,
yeah.
So, for all of us. What do y'all think the best 2 years is? Or what's the best case scenario? What's the best case scenario in terms
I think I'm going to go conservative again, or 9 at most. It's given the wide receiving core. I feel like running a weapon still, and there's still the same schemes that gravitate towards. It's just a push comes to shove from are the wide receivers the way they need to be. And I mean, I want to say it, but Edelman no longer step with, and so I don't know that going to be this where you could clearly see that. I don't know beyond that rapport he's going to have with any of the other backs. Rex Burkhead was a good chunk of the season. He always seemed like a go-to guy when they needed it. I don't know what sort of upgrade. I know that I believe they've signed a defense, but it's sadly I have not done my research.
Well, no, I haven't kept track.
But I feel like it's just going to be kind of this year. I don't have as effective. I just don't have a core is really going to work. Because went 12-4 last year. There was something lacking.
Too. They had a bunch.
Oh yeah.
So how about we go over to reality side perspective on this scenario for wins this year?
In the quarterback.
Let's just say for right now, it's going to
have to call. I know very little about. I'm sorry, I don't have. But just like that somebody that he was with, and he knew what to do. It was like peas and carrots, etc. But tough call. I'm not even sure from there. But it would be Stidham. I would probably have to do. But if he's as good as what I remember from a couple years, I still think it'll be most.
Wow. I guess
think he's being nice to.
Well, I think so.
Honeymoon face.
Yeah.
Everything it's all just
dogs and
I know. Well, I'm gonna actually say this case scenario.
Really?
Yep. I think and that's good. If they were to actually go out Winston or Newton, all right, then some other upgrades, and they're really going to make. If this is really, then start shaving off some draft a bunch to bring upside kind of guys, and try to replenish and have had these peaks throughout the year, like 10 years specifically. And they're going to go in, and I think in that going to Kraft and saying, hey, they're going to dump a lot of salary, and we're going to even everything out and get split from the ground up again. I think if this is how it ends up, maybe I would.
And I mean that's because we're dealing with an unknown quantity at this. I mean it's to not have huge, and they can just is about at the same time, Gister as it shakes out right now. Know if they have the manpower.
Yeah.
And biggest question mark, and that's why I have to put together something with a respectable sort of run that we would have had with. And that's where I think we all. There is going to be a step back of what are the degrees of step.
Yeah.
You're going very long. I understand. And Jason's being very kind to us.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for the 10-win vote. I
dash that in later for me.
Part is when the season plays out. That's pretty good.
Well, in that case, then he's start his own podcast now, and he's
there we go.
Oh no, that's
oh, everything is lovely. Everything is
wonderful. Who to have on as guest? Some of my friends, but.
Well, thank you. It's 20 episodes in. We're
episode I was negotiating with AJ of his friend, so.
Well, we do double redundant. Falls apart. Hopefully, the other one can.
Well, that's good.
We'd like to have a backup. Well, I think we've had us in the lows, so let's move on to.
And another thing.
Now, this is the part of the deem ourselves if we dug ourselves. So I'm not feeling too bad. This is cherry or off the top of the sundae. That is the hot fudge, I should say.
Hot. You throw Tabasco on that thing
like Chinese food and chocolate.
Because I when I grew up, I never had it was always just like that's places where we made our own fudge. I'm like so I always thought that in my head as hot sauce, and no sense whatsoever. Hey, this is it's a delicious topping on top of it. So let's for another thing a recommend.
You mean related to football or
anything at all,
my friend?
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
You talked about my solo record. Currently writing and one.
No.
When I'll start, I don't know, but now for the West End Mules, my second family, first and the West End both equally.
Site again because I'm blanking.
Sacks.com been updated in an ice age. That coming up pretty soon. Having recent shows on the horizon with you in September.
That's right.
That's right.
This out because I have an
advertising with it called self-titled. I suppose that's
yeah.
Also a good way to look at it, but if it's self-titled, then it's Rustic Overtones.
The other thing is, if I might put you a show, I would love to hear. Honestly, I would love to hear you do front to back, just as that solid.
I'm in the same boat. Out of rehearsed on the record, we probably have, but I would love to, be able to rehearse all of it, just so we have. But to do that album, it would be special for me. A really good challenge.
And emotional. I meant that was one of his podcasts, and I think everybody should own it. For many years, Justice and Taste in This World rule the airwaves. Will,
thank you.
I just a little too into genre box. I'm like, yeah, well, too bad these guys, and they're multiple genres, so why don't you like them?
Yeah, I mean, we always pretty much we didn't feel had to put ourselves in the box. Like, I mean, it's kind of across the board as influences, measures, inspired moments, and we can do to stretch ourselves. I mean, the late day of Brazilian rock and roll, the underground in the 19th work on, you know, of the junta in Brazil, thinking very fondly of rock and roll, that were inspired stuff regardless of I have come behind it. So it was really good, and it was we put and really good product. At least I am from that.
I favorite song off of it, so I won't bother.
What's your favorite?
I bounce back. Actually, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to say it wrong sometimes because college radio for every song name and every band familiar because I've seen so many. My brain is just this mishmash sense. An ode, which I always wanted to say.
I think I did that, and song was really unique because one of the things that we Dave Noyes passed away. We're looking at some of the song ideas and taken Dave wrote the chord progression that Dave the record, and you hear a little bit of his. You hear a little bit, yeah. It tells you pretty much exactly how my chord. I and for so many reasons, like backing track on stage with us, so in one way.
And I think one of the ones that always makes it I like just because it's just,
that is my personal favorite off is that's that horn riff. Like I have a reggae horn riff. We're recording it distinctly, and I was really floored. I'm like, yeah.
And then the one I even better once I found out a little bit. Dave Gutter actually commented. I threw it up there. Is
and we haven't
just know. Oh my gosh, that song kicks ass.
Like that too.
Oh man, and talk about rustic. This will have to be because right now Tim has fallen asleep.
But I need to investigate and explore, and I haven't listened. Todd is things I appreciate of our friendship in my eyes to. And so he's in record, I think, a couple podcasts, which I still need to go listen. So, yeah, check out. As last episode was all about runs that are outside of the box, into a genre, very sample and hear. So, yeah, so it's definitely.
Tim, do you have a streaming service? Apple Music?
I do, yeah.
It's on all the streaming services. Petite, yeah. Just most of our albums are on there. There are a couple that aren't for whatever reason, but a couple of the
yeah.
So kind of the beauty of streaming services or music too. But I haven't heard of. I mean, we're a nation of convenience now. We want it right now to be.
And given what I do, it's actually much easier desk interrupting me. So listen to an album if I want, completely uninterrupted. So absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Tim's never.
You're at it. What you can do is you can on all platforms. Like kind of compare and contrast.
Very cool.
There's a lot of people think I tend to disagree about that. Instrumental, and it comes from a rustic record would. It's something that that we took the go behind it on board for it. So
absolutely
this week.
That's right.
So what? So sir, what this week?
From as a bit of an inspiration, last night and out there, given the time under lockdown, so to speak, it's a game called basically it's Pictionary mixed with.
Yeah, I used to
play it.
Yeah,
and
after drinking malt liquor, which was
you got to throw a curve. Played it last night as a family, and it was a game where like you enter, and what it we all have your, we all have phones. All kind of if you it's kind of like a quiz app through a web browser. This is a code, and so you're all kind of locked. And what it basically does is, and they have to draw what that sub, and then you have from a computer. So you with the computer's kind of running the game, and you try to guess what it is, and you think it is based on where it drew, and so you can come up with guesses and stuff. And so people the pool of guesses of what it reads based on that. So anyways, the vein of. You don't know, there's comedy humor in it and stuff. A lot of fun, just an idea. Given the time we're in, right indoors a lot and stuff. Game to play kind of on the TV with folks. So jackbox.tv. I
am definitely going to go. Starting to hit of Disney Plus and what's available there. Thing like Disney Plus is you have like that's tagged onto there. These like whatever out adventuring and cooking and this is weird, but okay, fine.
Yelling at people.
Still cussing up a storm, but they're watching it with my daughter, and I'm just, this chef's on the planet, and he cusses like, enjoy, kid.
And your wife would really enjoy. It's really just a very thing, and it just gets kind of addictive. You want to play like it's just fun. So
All right, I will give that a look. And I've talked about a wonderful day because I get to talk about Rustic about Tower of Power.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. One of mine a few months ago was last year, which debuted their first ever #1, which is just that was Soul Side of. They released a new album called Step Up. Recorded all of the songs were recorded kind of all. They just kind of divvied up whatever. And they have 2 albums. This album is a different feel, I think. It kicks all the end. But then again, I'm in the bag for these folks. Now, I will say my favorite probably say the single, which is so Tower Power has videos in their career. They did back song Credit, which I will link and believe is on YouTube. It's not even like it's just like the most horrible, and it shows the band in the entire video. Made a new music video of this album, which in my eyes, really good video, and it's also a really good one of my favorite, along with and probably one, but any excuse will do is go get the album CD. Well, no, you can't buy it really on out of it, and get these guys. They are a soul band since 1960.
Oh.
Sweet mama, to have a band that is, and actually right now 3 original members. The original bass player he can no longer because they can't get him insured anymore.
Yeah, he's been in rough shape for. I think he does play in this.
I think so because the guy that they have touring with them. Oh my gosh, the Brooklyn Bowl them, and I was blown away. Is fantastic as he's playing stuff, and like Garibaldi actually. He's like the angry grandpa. Kids getting on my lawn.
Supposed to play New Hampshire, the Tupelo Music Hall that they would have gotten to Portland.
Well, actually, they're supposed to play.
Yeah, I'm going to that show
too. Yeah,
and there's Rise of Tower and Power coming up in time. That I'm in
vapors.
That's all I can say about it.
All right. Well, good. I love Secret, and that gives me something that I can pimp later. I think that just about wraps up this for bearing with us. And it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Hope you've enjoyed it and enjoy Tom Brady for the next 2 years as Warrior Stidham quarterback
Beast
monster.
of God.
Run. But others who have downloaded this and all that, feel free to share with an enemy again. We have 0. As off. To Tim, the 2 idiots running this show, take us home.
Well, it's hard as a Patriot to complain about the state. It's been a great run. To very much appreciate the memories, and the Tampa fans, you were excited to see kind of what happened, and now we embark to the unknown. There be dragon.
Oh boy.
May Belichick and Kraft guide as Picard and but
you're trying to you just easy.
Yeah, a little bit. Good run, and it'll be interesting to see your. Thank you again, and for joining us. Give Overtones a listen. And Jason, what?
It's called The Ultimate. You can JasonWardSax.com all services, but no copies on CD and vinyl.
Excellent. Listen,
fantastic on vinyl.
And get the vinyl. All else, please.
I picked the wrong week.
Beg your pardon. What did you say?
You're such a I prayed. Get out. Don't come back. You'll receive.
I mean, that really